I'm here with Kesten Migdal. Is that how you say your name?
That's right. What's up? How you doing? Good to see you.
So Kesten is a DP here in the Bay Area. And so, I wanted to talk to him because I've seen his work. It's amazing. I personally want to create the type of work he does. It's beautiful work. Not just the visuals, but I think you're leaning more towards the storytelling part.
That's right. Yeah.
Is that what you try to focus on?
Yeah. I mean, I always try to incorporate some storytelling into the videos. If I'm working directly with clients, so I'm not hiring a director. So they're kind of looking to me to tell a little bit of a story too. So, and I have a story background I worked at Pixar for about 6 years before I started shooting.
So what did you do at Pixar?
At Pixar, I did production accounting. I started doing production accounting. Then I did.
What does that mean? Hold on.
So I have a weird background. You want me to jump back and tell you how I started in this whole business?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me a brief overview of
how I started. Yeah. So I didn't go to film school. I didn't do like the traditional things where I worked in the camera department, worked my way up. I just kind of meandered into this job. So I did work in film right out of college. I didn't major in film or anything like creative. I was a business major in college, business and international relations major. I moved to New York and I started working in film right away. I had someone who I knew was a first AD, and they needed someone on set. So I was a PA. And I thought that was a pretty fun job. And I did that. I would PA'd and also waited tables in New York City for a couple of years. I moved to California and then didn't really work in film for a while. I worked at a company called Power Bar, who makes energy bars. I did that. I was a staff accountant there for a little bit. I worked at an adventure travel company. And then I met a neighbor of mine who was a location manager in San Francisco, and she worked on all the big features that would come through town. And I thought that'd be really fun to get back into film. So I assisted her. And then I thought locations was like the best job ever, and I was going to make that my career. But I was about to have a baby, and there wasn't that much work in the Bay Area for locations, so I got a job at Pixar. Pixar was hiring, and so I had this weird accounting background and production background. So I got hired on Finding Nemo as a staff, as a production accountant, as an assistant production accountant on Finding Nemo. And then I jumped into production coordinating on Ratatouille and Wall-E, and that's basically like helping out manage productions.
Is that like logistics? What is that?
So basically, production coordinating is there's a whole pipeline that happens with animation and a bunch of different departments in the animation world. So it's basically like working in one department. I worked in the story department on Ratatouille for a while. The story artists work directly with the director. The director comes in. Usually the director has written the story and comes in with like a sequence, presents it to the story artist, and the story artist draws up the sequence and they review it. My job was basically to make sure that things were kind of running on time and we were meeting our deadlines and goals. So nothing too creative.
So you were getting a touch in all these departments.
Right.
All the workflow, basically.
Basically the whole workflow, yeah. I worked in some technical departments like shade and paint. I worked in a department called Sweatbox on Wall-E, which is like wrangling other departments. Really, a lot of it, I wasn't really suited to production management. I didn't like it that much. I wasn't that great at it, at wrangling, 30 technical directors and trying to make sure we were meeting our deadlines and everything. So I left Pixar in 2008, and I really didn't know what I was going to do. Okay. I started consulting in social media. And because social media was kind of taking off in 2008, Facebook was on the rise. I think that YouTube was just bought by Google right around then too, so that was taking off. And then video was taking off. And so I was running social media campaigns, and I was also shooting video. I had a little flip camera. It was like this big, and it had a little USB port that flipped out. And then you could just like shove it right into your computer. And it was like revolutionary because we didn't have video on the phone in 2008. You had like the handy cams, and then you had these little like HD little cameras. They're awesome. You could like shoot video on them. And so I made a bunch of videos like that. And at Pixar, I actually took a lot of film classes. So I learned how to edit. I learned like shot composition. I kind of learned a little bit about story. And I got really sucked into shooting video, and kind of pushed the social media stuff away. Like after, I think 2010, I said, you know, I'm done with social media. I'm just going to focus on video. And so I bought a Canon 7D was my first DSLR camera. I don't remember when that was, 2009, probably 2010. And then, I just been buying gear ever since. So,
So you were doing these social media videos for clients or for yourself?
yeah, so I was doing them for clients. I had clients like Sunset Magazine, the ASPCA in San Francisco. So I was shooting like dog and cat videos and like how to take care of your rats. I think like the how to take care of your rats video still has like maybe 400,000 views on YouTube from like 8 years ago. And just like little things like that, just on the flip camera. And then I got a referral for a wine client, and I started shooting like a simple wine release video. It's like, hey, this is who I am. This is my wine. This is a vintage. This is what it tastes like. This is where it was grown. And I did that for Joel Got Wine, and I've been doing that since probably since 2010. I've probably done like 90 of his videos, and so it's evolved over the years.
That's been a retainer client of yours, that helped you do that, stay in business and also through that progression.
Exactly, yeah.
I just want to cut in here because, a lot of the DPs, video guys that I've met, a lot of them have the retainer client, usually one or two, and that helps them stay in business. And I think that's super useful for anyone who's trying to do this full time. You don't need a lot of clients. It's good to have a lot of clients, but if you can get one good retainer, that might, help you move along.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's nice about the model, like working directly with clients. We got a gnarly train coming through here. Yeah. So, there's like the model where you get hired by agencies solely, or you work directly with clients solely. And I do like a mix of both. I think like working directly with clients, having that relationship is really nice. And then you do get on retainer kind of, not like a traditional retainer, but you're their video guy and they'll call you. So, I've been doing that with a bunch of clients up in Napa Valley, food clients, wine clients, and also, agencies. I'm on the roster of a bunch of agencies too.
Right. So I've seen your work. It's just like, by far one of the just from looking at different people, your work looks really pretty, really, crisp. I know you shoot with the red cameras. So when did you first make that jump, and why did you make that jump into the red cameras?
I was shooting on a 75D, and then I rented my friend's red camera because I just, a bunch of my friends had red cameras at the time, and I was like, man, I kind of need to keep up and do that. And I think I rented his camera and I used it a few times and I realized like, wow, I love this camera. It's so much nicer to work with than the 5D. And
what year was this?
This was like 2000 and what year is it now? It was probably 2014, I think. 2014. I bought a Red Epic. I bought it used on reduser.net. I think I paid for the whole package probably like 20 grand or something. I upgraded to a Dragon a few years later, and now I shoot on a Red Gemini and Red Raven, and I bought all my Red packages used on reduser.net. You can get some really good deals.
Pro tip,
yeah, totally. But I think that the Red just had a lot of flexibility that I was looking for. You can shoot raw and you can take it into post. Because I do probably like 75% of the post work myself. You can take it into post and you can edit that raw footage, the source files, and without having to like lay over Lumetri or anything. You can go right into the source file. You can change the contrast, the color, the white balance. The ISO and the white balance isn't baked in, so you can be running and gunning and totally mess up.
The workflow is so different. I mean, you were showing me on the computer how you color grade. I'm like, wait a minute, this is totally different from what I've done with other camera bodies. And so it's just amazing. You did a couple clicks and it just like looks so beautiful. Is that because of the red camera or the expensive lenses you're using? Because you have some really nice glass.
Yeah, so I shoot with, I have two lenses that I really love, the Zeiss Otis 55 millimeter and the Zeiss Otis 85 millimeter. And those are my interview lenses. I'll shoot a lot of food B-roll on those lenses too. And then the running gun lenses, I like the Sigma 18 to 35. I think it's awesome. It's fast, it's small, that on an easy rig, it's really great to use. But
what is the difference? Do you notice a huge difference in the picture quality using the Sigma 1835 to your Otis lenses?
Yeah, there's a difference in picture quality. But to jump back to your question about the post-production workflow, I think that traditionally you're going to shoot in log or something. When we had the 5D, the 7D and the 5D, you had it was a Technicolor profile. I think it was called Cine Style. You would download that and you shoot on that, so it was kind of as flat as you could get it, and then you could bump up the color in post. And then with like the Sony's shooting S-Log2, S-Log3, and then you add LUTs on top of that. With the red, it's already got a look built into the camera. It's not baked into the camera, but you can set that look in the camera and you're shooting, and then when you dump the footage, you still have that look, and then you can tweak that look a little bit. So, and most of the time right out of the camera, I get the look I want. I'll sometimes change the white balance or bump up the saturation or contrast a little bit, but I never take lumetri or any other effects and load them on top of my red footage.
You don't have to, because I saw what you showed me. It was just like click, beautiful. Like you really don't want to do some crazy stuff to it. And some people is like, oh, I got to pull out for my Sony cameras, it's got this greenish tint. I got to pull that out. Do you have any issues with red as far as that?
Not really. I have a Blackmagic Pocket cinema camera, 6K also, and that's like, it's tricky to work with that camera to get the look I want. I find the colors are a little muddier on that. The greens are not as green as I would like them, pretty much. And but with that camera, it's got the same kind of raw files where you can go in and it doesn't bake the white balance or the ISO in, so you can still adjust it, kind of like red, but it doesn't have that same look factor as red. And to be fair, like red is just all these things are just tools, right, for the right job. So I really like red cameras because they're right for me. I like to shoot food and documentary style stuff on them, and I've got some friends who shoot skate videos, and they do amazing stuff on the GH5. And I was just talking to him, and he was like, "Yeah, my friends are like, when did you get a red?" He was like, "No, I'm still shooting on the GH5." And he shoots on the Micro Four Thirds image stabilized lenses with a stabilization in the body, and you can get like amazing stuff for what he's doing.
Well, there's some things you can do with smaller bodies. It's easier to get them on a gimbal and do get more shots in less time. Once you jump into cinema cameras like the red, there's just more stuff. It's not like you can just put it on a gimbal. You need a special kind of gimbal, and it also takes more time to set up. So, it's a special use, right? It depends whether it's good for your type of work.
Right, exactly. And I think, it doesn't just go on a handheld gimbal. That's the one thing. Although I've tried, I bought a few gimbals and I had to return them, because I saw people on YouTube make it work, but it's kind of a pain in the butt. But as far as setup time, I think the red's actually really quick to set up. Like my A7S II I had for a while, I'd stick it in the cage, and then I have to wire up, screw the handle on, then I'd have to maybe get my audio set up, and I'd take the red out of the, completely unbuilt. I can build the thing in maybe 3 minutes tops.
So you hear this a lot, in the YouTube world. Oh, gear doesn't matter. Gear doesn't matter. It's true, but the discussion that I've been having is that, well, it does kind of matter when you're getting paid for work. Just being a red owner and operator, and it does elevate your footage to another level, but also gives you this aura of you're more professional than, let's say, someone who's shooting with an A7S II. Your work might look the same. Most people can't tell, but just being a red owner can give you a different aura, different perspective in the eyes of your potential clients.
That's right. And, agencies will ask what kind of camera you use. They'll want to shoot on a Red or an Alexa Mini or something. But a lot of the times the clients don't know, and I work directly with clients a lot of times. So I've never really had a client ask for a Red camera. I just bought one because I loved the way it looked and I loved the way it felt when I was using it and how easy it was in post. So, and it really elevated the image a lot too for me. And, being able to shoot with all those variable frame rates, a lot of slow motion, really easy to do, was great too. And so I just kind of developed a look from shooting on the Red. And that's kind of what clients want. They want that look. They don't necessarily want the camera, but they want the style that I kind of developed and that look.
Right. Plus, once you start producing at this higher level, I mean, not everyone's going to notice, but let's say the right people who do, they're going to say, yes, I want that. And, you can only, light, as much as lighting is important and audio and all that stuff, the picture quality can also, bring you to other arenas where it's higher budget, right? With, like you said, certain agencies, certain video production companies that are looking for that. There might not be as much of a market for the regular type of videography work, but for the high-end film or video production, you have to kind of have the right tools in order to be considered for those jobs.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, I think the Red fits a lot of those bills for me. I don't shoot on C300s that much. I don't shoot on Sonys that much anymore. I don't shoot on Alexa Minis really. I like the Red, and I like the Red a lot for documentary work too. I mean, a lot of people you'll see, like if you look at the cameras used on Sundance documentaries, hardly any of them are Red. They're like C300 or Sony. But I just find the Red really, really unforgiving in a lot of situations where you're gunning. And I don't find it that, it doesn't have the XLR inputs. But, I use a little sound device. There's a Mix Pre 3 mixer that I put right on the bottom of my camera. So that works out a lot. I also have a breakout XLR box I put on there.
And it brings is a preamp that goes straight, then you can connect it to the camera?
Yeah, well, with the sound devices Mix Pre 3, it fits right on the base of my camera, and I can handhold the whole setup. And I can build my camera pretty small, so it weighs under 10 pounds, and I can actually just put it on a monopod or just handhold it. But in those situations, I also have an easy rig I like to use.
What type of productions are you usually involved with? Is it a one-man band, or are you working with a team, or how does it work for you most of the time?
It varies. I don't work with huge crews. The biggest will be, if an agency has more like a commercial style shoot, and then they'll have, a couple stylists, and they'll have a couple set dressers, and then, a gaffer and a grip and an AC and me and a sound person. So, but usually it's me and maybe a gaffer and maybe an assistant. And if we need, I have a lighting kit, I have an audio kit, so I can go out and make things really look nice with my lights and sound pretty decent with my audio kit. If we're doing a lot of interviews, we're trying to be efficient about it, and the client has budget, then we'll get an audio person in, and we'll get a gaffer. But I work with a great gaffer who is, he also operates a camera. He also DPs certain things, but he's got a 1-ton truck and lots of lights. And so just the two of us can go out and we can do really amazing work.
So when you work with your gaffer friend, how much direction do you have to give him as far as you put the light here, put the light there, or is it more of, hey, I'm going for this kind of look, make it happen, and then you just, how much direction do you have to provide?
Not much direction. I mean, if it's a grip that has a truck, then the grip will be like, what do you want me to do? But like Tom Guiney, who I work with a lot, he's awesome. He just, we get in a situation and we'll set up like an interview, and he'll just, we'll talk maybe a little bit, like I think we should maybe do a book light or something, and he'll throw out some suggestions. I'm like, that sounds awesome. And like a Luke type person, I never worked with him, but I'm sure he's like the same way. Alan Steinheimer, worked with him a bunch. He's just like, yeah, I was thinking about doing this, some sky panels and this type of diff over here. I was like, that sounds great, but then I'll be like, then we'll fine tune it. A lot of times we're just lighting interviews. where, let's see, last time I worked with Alan, we were doing a commercial for a little robot, and that took a little more involvement, like trying to dial in the lights and the look and everything. But when you're just, lighting an interview, you just have to walk into the environment and say, what am I dealing with? How am I going to control this light? And how do I shape it so it looks really nice?
What are your go-to lights when you're just by yourself or with an assistant?
So in my kit, I really love the Aperture 120D. I have the first generation, although I think the second generation has a little bit better of a output and better color rendering index, CRI. But anyway, it's a great light. I have the light dome with it. I travel with that all over the world. I just stick it in my kit, and I can pop it open in a couple minutes and get a really nice interview light. I keep it kind of as close as I can to the subject, and then I also have some rags in my bag and some duvetine and clamps, and I can make things look pretty decent by myself or just with an assistant.
Yeah, no, I mean, I saw the, just I can attest to that. I was looking at your work. It's like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I think, I never worked in a camera department. I never worked with really, bigger productions. I just kind of started doing it on my own, and I watched a lot of videos. And in the beginning, I hired a lot of people who were smarter than me and knew more than me, because I had the clients, but I didn't necessarily know how to get the look. So at the time, it's like 2008 to 2012, I guess, we were kind of, me and other DPs were kind of in the same boat, shooting on Canons. And I would go out on jobs a lot of times with just me and Jason Josepher or Win Padula, other DPs in the area. And we would just make it work between us. We had lighting kits and audio kits, and we had our cameras, and like those guys knew a lot more than I did. And they knew how to light interviews, they knew how to make it look really nice. So I learned from them. And I also learned from, hiring gaffers when you're kind of new. You hire a really competent gaffer who's maybe an owner operator, and he's lit a ton of interviews. and once you get that look, you kind of know that's the look I like. And how did you do that? Oh, okay, I see how you did that. So and also just watching a lot of YouTube videos and listening to a lot of podcasts.
Never stop learning.
Right. But for me, I was like 40 when I started shooting full time, and that was 9 years ago. I'm 49 now, and I think just like being maybe a little older and kind of just like faking it more, and just I knew how to work with clients. I've worked tons of crappy office jobs and worked interface with clients and worked retail and waited tables, and I knew how to talk to clients, and I also, and I learned really quickly how to make great videos too. So I think that combination really helped out. So I might have appeared like a little like I knew more what I was doing, rather than if I was like 20 years old and trying to make this happen. So I don't know, and I just got it's just word of mouth. I get one job, and then someone would recommend it to someone else, and I just kind of feel, and then I would, I guess some DPs would recommend me for work, and I definitely recommend a lot of people for other jobs that, if I have to turn down something, and then they'll kind of recommend me for another job, and that's really worked out. So I mean, it's really invaluable to have that network of people.
Now that you're doing these, I've seen your projects. How much pre-planning are you involved in, or is it most projects the client already has what they know what they want, they just wanted you to shoot it, or do you have to build the storyline or what it's going to be? How much pre-production do you do?
Yeah, it kind of depends on what the video is. I'm trying to think of like a recent shoot I had, but I guess if I'm not bringing a director in, then it is kind of working through a story structure. And I took some online story seminars, and also working at Pixar, working in the story department and realizing how valuable story is. Like, you can not have the greatest camera, or not be the best, visual storyteller, but if that story is strong, then it's going to be a compelling film to watch. I mean, there's a lot of slick documentaries out there that look amazing. And there's also documentaries that don't look that great, and maybe don't sound that great, but they've got a good story. So I try to work with the client. I have a 5-beat story structure. I kind of start with that, and you can make that a 20-second video or an 8-minute video. And 5 beats. So it's like you got the introduction. You have the inciting incident, which is what sets the story in motion. You've got the rising action. You've got the main event, and then you have the resolution. And you can get that story accomplished, and I can just tell you like a simple story. Like I went to the store. Like I needed to bake a cake, and I went to the Monterey Market, and like they were totally out of eggs, and I couldn't believe it. And I was like, crap, what am I going to do? I got to bake this cake in 20 minutes. But then, I saw someone selling eggs on the corner. A farmer just happened to pull up, and I bought the eggs, and I went home, I baked my cake, and it was delicious. And so, that had like kind of. I was just making that up yeah, a little bit of like, but it had the 5 beats, and like, so I learned a lot of that at Pixar. I had to like break down other movies and break it down scene by scene, and so I got really interested in that kind of storytelling. And how could you do that in social media? How could you do it in like 30 seconds or less? And so I'll work with the client, if we want to. They're like, we want to do a brand video, and we don't really know what, we want to tell our brand story. And so I'll work with them too. And also I use, Simon Sinek wrote a book about, the power of the start with why or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. And I really like that for brands, for clients who maybe don't have an idea of what they want to do, but we try to get to the why of what they're trying to convey, because once you get someone to believe in what you believe in, it's a little more powerful. So I'll take that to a certain level, but then I need to make sure it looks great, and the video looks nice. So a lot of times, like working with a director is really great because they'll take all that pressure off, and then I can just concentrate on just doing the DP thing.
Okay, and when you bring in a director, usually they already have the idea what it should be, or sometimes they help you develop that story.
They'll work more with the client to develop the story, and then I'll jump in and weigh in a little bit, but not that much. It's more the director working directly with the client, and then it's like, okay, how do we tell this story visually now? Then it's my job just to think about the visuals and think about how we're going to light certain things and what lenses we're going to use and what cameras.
Do you ever have to hire or contract the script writer or anything like that?
No, never contracted a script writer. Usually
the client comes up with the script.
Yeah, or the director will do that. Yeah. I worked with this guy Josh Eisenberg a lot, and he's really good at that. He's a good script writer, and he's good at story concepts, and walking the client through everything. And
so, talk to me about what is the hardest thing when you have to hire a crew. For someone like me, I'm possibly this month shooting with the crew, and as a lead DP, and I've been on bigger shoots, but not as a DP, more like a camera assistant. So any tips for me, what to look out for? What have you learned from working, having to direct a team?
In the beginning, it's just, you just have to kind of make sure it looks like you know what you're doing in front of the client, right? So it's always having that confidence of just being, stepping in there, and not ever feeling like insecure if you don't know something and try to overcompensate by being like, oh that goes there. That's right. I'd say like, I can't remember who was working. A friend of mine, the sound guy, was like working on Sorry to Bother You, I think it was, and that movie that was shot in Oakland. Bootsy Collins one. Sorry to Bother You. I don't know. Maybe I haven't watched Okay. Anyway, he was saying like the director was, like never directed a big feature before, and I was like, man, I don't know what. Yeah. Say that out loud. Yeah, something. Maybe the story is so wrong, but it was something like that. What I'm trying to get at, it was like the director was working on a big feature and was like, I've never worked with a sound guy before, So you just got to be like, if you hire a gaffer, be like, dude, I don't know that much about what I'm doing, but just help me out here, and maybe have a pre-production meeting and be like, yeah. But if if you know kind of what you want the look to be, you kind of know what, and I always encourage crew to step in and help out. Like please throw any suggestions you have my way. It's not gonna, as long as you don't like, look really weird in front of the client by like taking control. And yeah.
How about, have you worked with actors, actresses, had to hire them on certain shoots?
You know what? I don't do that. If I have worked with actors and actresses, but usually the agency I work with will deal with all that. So I don't. A few times I've had to like look at casting, and I've almost been there, but it's really like, I think as a DP, you kind of have to draw the line. We wear a lot of hats. Like I'm mainly a DP, but I'll help direct and I'll help with the story and I'll help, maybe I'll light, or do audio, but like I don't really want to get into casting or script writing or certain things like that. Like if it gets to that level, I think that someone should be helping out and producing it, and
So that's when you bring in a director to help you with casting?
Well, if any situation I've been in that has involved casting, I've always worked with an agency, so they've always had the shoot, and I've hired the models and dealt with that themselves. So, or agency, or directly with like a client, a larger tech client or something, who they have like a video department and they contract.
So I was talking to Luke Servell about this, the going from the one-man band to working on bigger productions, and the biggest obstacle is when you're a one-man band, often you're dealing with low-paying clients, and so when it comes to stepping up and hiring crew, then you realize you have to charge way more if you want to step up your game. So how much of you having to hire like a gaffer or other people on your crew, how has that helped you progress? Has it actually helped you attain bigger clients? Or have you ever invested, let's say, on making a bigger production just so you can produce a higher quality work? Or
not really. It kind of ebbs and flows. It's kind of like, you'll do a few bigger things and you'll be like, oh, this is really fun, I want to do bigger things. And then you don't get those calls, you sit around waiting. So you take smaller things, I always want to be working. So I don't really say no to that many things. And, the Bay Area, I think, is a little different than LA too. I think I have some friends that work in LA, and it's just like, you get different types of work, different types of jobs. And I was always kind of like envious of the jobs my friends were doing in LA. I was like, I kind of want to do that. And they were kind of like, well, I think working directly with clients, like it's way less hassle, and it's, you may be making more money, and maybe you're, a little bit happier, more control. And so, no, I don't think I do the bigger shoots just to get in my portfolio. Sometimes they'll come along, and a lot of times those bigger shoots, unfortunately, I can't put them on my reel because they're like under NDA, or it's like just internal for a specific client, a big tech client or something like that, or an agency that was doing something on spec and then never turned out, or some device that never got released. You can never yeah.
So going back to your work, just because I'm like blown away by the quality, do you think it's better to invest in lenses or camera bodies, or both?
I think camera probably first. You can get some really nice lenses for not too much money. I think like the Otis 55 is now, you can get a used one for like $2,500. I know that may seem like a lot, but they're like, it's not that much. And I think I paid $3,000 for it. And the 85 is not that much either. Even a red, like I would say if you were looking to get a new camera package, I would look and maybe get like a used Red Raven package, because you can get one for like $8,000, and then you can get a couple nice lenses, and you're shooting on a red with a Dragon sensor, and all the benefits that come with red. It might be a little more cropped, but and then it's just, I think, like getting different looks too. You can be stuck in a certain look, and I'm looking. Now I bought a few lenses. I bought a few like Russian lenses, and doing like an anamorphic adapter thing, like the ISCO micro red, like anamorphic kind of add-on. And so but there's the Atlas anamorphic lenses are also really affordable to rent, and as far as anamorphics go, to buy. So I think I think it's really important not to just get stuck in the same look, get stuck in the same like DSLR look or the same flat, kind of still lens look. Maybe go rent some cinema lenses. Maybe, if you have one job, maybe invest some of your own money to rent some nice lenses, or go on share grid and maybe try a different camera out. Because like a lot of times, they're just tools, but those tools will help you kind of express yourself in a different way. And you might not notice, you might not realize like, this is really cool. I can do this with this. You were just stuck using your old gear and your old lenses. So it'll help you like with your own expression.
Yeah, just train, just gain experience using different gear. Because if you only have this, you only think this is the only way to do it. And
as soon as I got the Red, I started it just expanded my horizons of what I could do.
Back to the one-man band, I like to touch on that because a lot of people are still in that boat. What do you think is the biggest mistake they make, as far as maybe the work they make, or as far as trying to make it full-time? Is there like certain advice that you learned, over the years that, you wish you knew maybe when you got started?
Like if you're doing a one-man band thing?
Yeah. And you're just getting started. Maybe think about someone who's just they have a camera, they've been making some videos, and they're like, wow, it wouldn't be cool if I could get out of my day job and do this full time. Yeah,
I would say for me, it was about watching a lot of really good videos and trying to emulate those. I think some people get into the mistake of not really trying to progress or not really keeping up with what everyone else is doing. And that's how I kind of learned coming up, doing the one-man band thing. Was there anything I wish I knew? I don't think so. I think that it's just been a constant progression, I'm always obsessed with how I can be most efficient and what gear I can, really tell the best visual story with. And I watch a lot of, I think the short videos on Vimeo, you watch the staff pick documentaries, even though it has nothing to do with maybe what client you're going to be working with, but you get a sense of what kind of cameras you're using, lenses people are using, and how they're shooting and editing and doing the sound design.
How about dealing with clients? I mean, that's a major one. People think it's just, well, this is how I used to think. I'm going to create the most beautiful work and everyone's going to come to me and they're like, I want that. And it just didn't happen like that, at least not for me. So you have to learn about outreach, dealing with clients, the onboarding, pricing, all this stuff. I mean, that's something you don't learn unless you're in it, right? You can get a million advice about how to deal with clients, but it's not until, you need to throw out a number. Hey, how much does this cost? That, the emotions hit, wow, I really want this job, but am I going to lowball myself here?
Right. The budget is always a hard thing because you could be working with a startup and they don't have any money, or you could be working with a larger company. So it's, I always before I bid on something, I always ask, well, what's your budget? If they don't know, I'll say, well, okay, you're a startup. I have a feeling you probably don't want to spend that much money. So I'll give you a couple different options. This is maybe a one-man band option. This is what we could do with a larger crew. This is what we maybe could do with the director. And so I'll give them some different options. And working with clients is just, it's a matter of just being really confident. When you're trying to get a new client and someone calls you and they're deciding on a few other production companies, it's you kind of have to show them what makes you different than other people. And maybe that's through your style of work, or maybe that's just how you're talking about how you're going to shoot something, whether you have a vision for their product, doing a lot of research on what their product might be and what who their competitors are and what the other people are doing in their same space for videos, and how the story is being told. I'm
just bringing this up because I had this week, no, it was last week, I was talking to a potential client. It's like, yes, we want it. And I gave him 3 price points because that's something I learned. If you give out one price point, it's either a yes or no. But if you give them three options, then it's like, well, which one? Pick one, right? And so I gave them that, and then they came back to me. Well, what's the breakdown? Like, and to me that was like a red flag. Once they want have you ever had that where they want a breakdown of what everything costs?
Not entirely. Like, what did they want to break down? They want to break down the camera, or that like
They wanted, well, how much to bring because I had 3 price points. One was, well, I'm going to bring a camera assistant with me. So they want to know how much the camera assistant.
Oh yeah, I usually break that out in my estimates. Yeah, I'll budget it out and be like, okay.
You're very detailed about all the line items.
I'll do like this is just my labor rate. This is my camera rental. If you want the production monitor, it's this much money. If you want an AC to come along, it's usually around this much. The gaffer, this level gaffer, or a gaffer in a grip with a bigger truck. Yeah, I'll break it all out so they kind of see it, so they'll know. And I break my rates too. In the beginning, I would just be like, I'm flat rate. It was like nothing, and I just had my camera and a little light and some other audio stuff, and I just go up for a flat rate. Now that I have more gear and I'm spending more money in gear, like, it's nice to get a rental on your audio kit, on your lighting kit, on your easy rig, on your monitor. It doesn't
hurt you to break it up,
no,
kind of like, what do you want? Like a ordering
exactly.
service.
Yeah. And I have a day rate too, just like a rack rate. And, I'll send it to clients if they're like, well, what are your rates? And I'll give them everything, like drone rental to, a gaffer, to 1 camera, to 2 cameras, to, a sound person or no sound person, just my audio kit. And,
Another, when I got started in this, I thought I have to be very good at convincing people, I'm halfway in between yes or no. I think sometimes you just have, like you said, being confident about your pricing, but it's not so much about me having to convince somebody. If somebody wants to spend a certain amount, they already have a number. There's nothing I can for the most part, there's nothing I can do to change them, right? I have this analogy where it's like a person that wants to buy a Honda is not going to buy a Mercedes, even though there's a really good, I might be a really good car salesman. I'm not going to sell them on a Mercedes because they're a Honda Civic. That's their budget. You're not going to move them from there, no matter what I say. And so I think I often took it upon myself, like, whoa, maybe I'm a bad salesman. There's a combination of that, right? Just knowing that what you're worth, and not also having a minimum threshold. Like, I will not go below this if times are good, right? Given that I'm not too needy for a job, right? And as a beginner, you often compromise a lot just because you just want the next job. You want the next job. I don't know. What is your experience of,
of compromising?
Well, compromising, but also like, how much convincing do you have to do? Or do you put that on yourself to convince?
Not really. I did, when I was first shooting on the Red, I would say, 'cause I would build that in as a separate rental. And they'd be like, well, why are we paying this much more money for this camera? I'd be like, look, this is why. It's going to be awesome. And then some people would say yes, and some people would say, no, we're fine with the Canon 5D. So that was the only kind of convincing I had to do. And now it's just, the only convincing I have to do is trying to tell people that I don't do half-day rates. Like, I'll do something like that if it's like I'm not working tomorrow and someone calls me, like, hey, I got a quick shoot for you. I'd be like, okay, I'll come out. But if they want to book me in a month for a half day, I won't do that because I'll invariably get something else booked. But I'll compromise. I'll say, look, I'm always open to negotiating rates. If this isn't in your budget, let's talk. But if someone was like, I want to make a video for $500, you see these requests come through. I'm on a few of these, like these job boards or whatever they're called, and like Production Hub sometimes it's like total budget $500. You're like, well, I'm going to shoot and edit for, this is never going to happen. Some people, like right out of school, they'd be like, sure, add to my portfolio, It's like, I'll invest the time to do that. It's no problem. $500, it's good,
Back to the client the last week that, I gave him, and at the end they came back, sorry, I called them because they sent me an email, and they're like, oh, we just decided to hire some college kids and an editor from overseas because they're way cheaper. That's what they said to me. I'm like, oh, it's kind of like, it felt a little bit personal, but as also as a freelancer, a business owner, you have to kind of put your feelings aside. A lot of the times, you might want this job, but because you need to pay your rent, get money in the door, and you want to stay active. But also you have to put those emotions aside and say, you know what, it's not worth my time.
Totally.
And
they're
you
going to
build
get
up to that.
and it's going to look crappy. It's going to, wow, that's the way it is. I guess that's the only bargaining chip you have. You're like, well, my video is going to look better if you just want to spend a couple extra. If you don't care what it looks like, then hire the unknown just because it's cheaper. So
they're going to buy what do you call it? A used Civic. They don't,
without getting it inspected first. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So, I'm thinking about the red just because, just from looking at your work and, you get drilled over and over. Yeah, it's about the story. True. Story's king, but also it's nice to have that icing. And I think that's what having a nice camera, a nice lens it's like that icing. It might just be the difference between getting picked and not getting picked for a certain project.
Right. And yeah, that's true. I think that, especially with like interviews or some nice B-roll or food or something like that, having the nice camera and lenses can really work out. And then, but beyond that, like I said, it's just a tool. So you have to know how to use that tool. And, you should be able to have a red or be able to go onto like the crappiest camera and still make it look pretty good, where people are like, oh, what kind of camera? I don't know what kind of camera you're shooting on. Like a lot of the videos I see on Vimeo, sometimes it looks fantastic. And I'm like, I really can't tell what you're shooting. It looks like a nice lens. And, I comment too. I'm like, hey, what camera and lenses are you using? And this one video, the guy was like, oh, we're using, Arri anamorphics and a Alexa Mini, but for other shots we're using the GH5, and I was like, whoa, I couldn't even really tell when you jumped. Yeah, it's in the color grade. Yeah, the color grade was really good, but also like because they fit it so seamlessly, and they have a certain style they were working with that I couldn't, that I had to go back and look to see, oh, the exterior shots. Oh yeah, that shot is something different. And
yeah. People comment sometimes. They're like, wow, your videos on YouTube, they're so sharp. And I always tell them, I don't think it's a sharpness. I think what you're looking at is just the color grade. Knowing how to manipulate the colors and also the lighting. Make sure you got good lighting.
Yeah,
it goes a long ways.
I know. It's like, yeah, I love good lighting. When the lighting looks great. When it looks crappy, it's like red's not going to help you there. There's no way.
Is the red needs a lot of light?
No, I shoot on a Gemini, so it's got dual ISO. So that's one of the reasons I love it, because I do a lot of like, documentary stuff. I can be in a night market in Asia and shoot, on 3200 ISO or shoot outside, and I'll use a variable ND if I'm running and gunning. But yeah.
Well, it's great. Thank you for everything. Getting a look into your world and how you get into it.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Where can people find you? And I'll make sure to link whatever you say.
I'm on www.kesten.tv, KESTEN.tv, Kesten.tv, Kesten.tv. That's my website, Kesten.tv. And then I just got some recent work up there, and my contacts all up in there too. So
yeah, I'll link to everything. And
okay, cool.
Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, man.